Hi, welcome to the Meeting of Minds podcast. I'm Philippa, and here we are again today with a fabulous guest. Today, I want to introduce you to my friend, Robbie Lee. So, Robbie, I'm going to read now. Robbie is an empowerment coach who specializes in helping introverts and highly sensitives move from overwhelmed to empowered so they can step out of the shadows and bring their dreams to reality with courage and confidence. Now, I love everything about that. And, Robbie is an all-round fabulous person. And it gives me really great pleasure to welcome you, Robbie, to the podcast. Hi.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much, Philippa. It's so exciting to be here and it's an honor. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's great. It's lovely that we're here and we're just going to have a chat. But it's really great to be doing it on the podcast. Thank you. So for me, it's, what time is it now? It's just after 5 in the afternoon, but I know it's not 5 in the afternoon where you are. So where are you coming to? Where are you coming from to us today?
I'm on the west coast of the United States. I'm in Washington State, in a town a little bit south of Seattle, Washington, called Port Orchard.
Oh, that sounds just very lovely. Just the name of it.
It's got water and trees, so it's my happy place.
Oh God, it sounds amazing. I'll have to come and visit you one day.
Absolutely.
I've never been to that bit of the States, so that would be lovely. So I asked you to come on the podcast because we've been getting to know each other more over the last few months, as we're both part of the high sensory coaching community created by Willow McIntosh. And for anybody who's listened or might want to listen afterwards, I actually recorded an episode with Willow a little while ago now, and that's episode 56. And so that's one reason, because I'm getting to know you, but also I just really love your energy, your kindness, your compassion, and your courage. And I just love what you want to, what you're bringing and what you want to bring to the world. So as a starter, can you let us know a little bit about how you got to be where you are now? I don't necessarily mean literally in where you live, but in life, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all those kind words. And I also loved getting to know you. I think what you put out in the world is amazing. So super excited for this chat today.
Yeah.
I think I have a similar story to a lot of highly sensitive folks, in that there was some health challenges that brought me to really look at my life differently. And so for me, they really started in like my senior year of high school, and then continued into college, but it would be waves and troughs. So I would get like debilitating migraines, and then they would go away, not because we figured it out, but it just seemed to. And then they would come back again, and then they would go away. And so I had a really challenging time in corporate America, because I felt like every sickness that went around, I caught it. I was constantly sick. I was constantly exhausted. And as I got older and then got into perimenopause, it felt like it was that times 100.
Yeah.
And then it was foggy brain. And then it was, I can't sleep. And then it was, just, I felt like I was losing my mind, on top of I'm in pain, and I get these, again, debilitating migraines, and no one can figure out what's going on. And along that same period, from the time I was little, I've always been curious about like what makes people tick. And, like, why do we do what we do? Like, I knew that I knew how people felt, but I couldn't have told you I knew that early on. Right. It was something I always knew. And looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I always knew that. And so I was constantly like trying to make sure the people around me were good. So a lot of people pleasing and a lot of, trying to be perfect so that I wouldn't upset the people in my life, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I also constantly was looking at, why is it one way? When it was a kid, it was, why is it one way for boys and one way for girls? That doesn't make sense. And as I got older and then was in the work world, it was like, okay, why is it one way for this worker and one way for the CEO? So like these kind of power structures and situations where things are different just because have driven me insane my whole life. And just my whole life. And so like those three things kind of have paralleled me throughout my life. And in the beginning of 2019, I got hit with another migraine and it just wouldn't stop. And it was, for those who experience migraines, it's more than just a terrible headache. But for those who don't experience migraines, they think, oh, you have a bad headache, like push through, Yes, it was a terrible headache, but also I couldn't see properly.
Yeah.
I was so dizzy, I would fall over. Light was like physically painful. Noise was physically painful. Touch was physically painful. Like my whole system was just on overload.
Yeah.
And I think it just like shut down. It was just, can't do it. Like everything in my system was screaming everything. And we went to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor. And I was ignored and belittled and, not listened to, which just compounded the whole thing. Told it was in my head, or like, well, yeah, there's something going on in my head.
Yeah, clearly.
Or, told that I was after pain meds when literally I never one time asked for a pain med. Like I was like, can you figure out what's going on here and fix it? I never asked for pain medication, which honestly was well within my right. I was in a lot of pain, but even not asking for it, it was still like, oh, you're just, drug seeking. I guess all these things, as an overweight, over 40 woman, just my pain was ignored over and over and over, or minimized. And it was 10 months of not being able to function and just going to doctor after doctor. Thank God for my wife who was driving me to these places.
Yeah.
Before we finally started finding doctors who could help me.
Great.
And so that helped me like start calming my system down, right? And giving it kind of what it needed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I can't. And that was a journey that took another, year after that. Like, and to be quite honest, I'm still on that journey. I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But I'm fully functioning and, I have a full-time business and doing something I love. So my life is totally different. But that health scare was just such a giant wake-up call. It was like, okay, I can't ignore what's going on with me anymore. Like I can't keep going in a cycle. If I get sick and then I push myself to go back into the same system that got me sick, and then I've got to figure out something different. And so I finished up. I had been, prior to getting sick, I'd been going after my coaching certificate because coaching was something that I loved doing in my job in corporate America. I was coaching leaders there.
Yeah.
So I finished up my coaching degree. I became best friends with my therapist and did a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
And releasing a lot of emotions that I've been carrying in my body.
Yeah.
Have gone to now lots of different health practitioners who help me in different ways, kind of get my system back in check. And I learned I was a highly sensitive person.
Yay.
And I went, oh.
Yeah. So it's been
And
that's been quite a recent thing for you as well, like it has been
it
for me, has
has,
that?
it
Oh,
has,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, I think what's like super true is I think I heard the term like years ago, but I didn't, it was almost kind of like, okay, yeah, I have brown hair. Like I didn't realize it meant that I was wired differently and that
Yeah.
my system needed different things. And so after I had gotten so just debilitated and like I started researching more about, well, what does it really mean to be that? And that's when I discovered, oh no, this is legitimate. Like I'm wired differently. I take in more information. My system needs different things. And that has been life changing. Life changing.
Oh, how amazing that you got there.
Yeah. And from there, I started just connecting anywhere I could into um, high sensitive communities like Julie B. Ellens and Willow McIntosh, who you
Yeah.
already mentioned,
Yeah.
and just educating myself on everything. It's just like I was a sponge. It was just like, what can I learn about myself? And at the same time, it just reinforced my passion to help other people who are also highly sensitive. It's like, oh my gosh, we tend to berate ourselves, say there's something wrong with us when when we're not operating in the world like we see others do. And what I learned is there's a reason that we can't function in, you know, we need other things in order to be able to function really well. But when we're functioning well, we bring something magical to the world.
Yeah.
And I've been able through my teachers to be able to see that about myself and own it. And I want to help other HSPs do that too. Like it just fires me up.
Yeah. And how amazing to have gone through all that and now to be wanting to use what you've learned to help others. I mean,
Absolutely.
that is really quite magical, because yes, you could have, absorbed all that information for yourself and made yourself, I was going to say better, that's not it, but improved your situation no end,
Yeah.
to a place where you were happy with it, but just kept all that to yourself. But actually, you don't want to do that. You want to share that with whoever else needs to hear that, because actually 20% of the population are highly sensitive. So there are a lot of people out there who either don't know that they're highly sensitive or suspect they might be and are kind of a bit in denial, or perhaps know they are but really don't know what to do.
Yes.
And there is help there. Go and seek out Robbie, or come and seek out me, but go and seek out Robbie, because our stories would start off very different, but actually we're not totally dissimilar age. And to come to this at our time of life is amazing, actually, because I'm definitely ready for the next chapter, and to be stepping into the next chapter with all this amazing information is just fabulous.
Yes.
But I would have liked to have known it earlier.
Yeah. To be honest, I had a bit of a grieving process because I, thinking about the messages I received from the time I was a kid, through now when I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
And, how it could have been different if I had been, and the people around me, if we'd all been aware that I was sensitive, and so that I needed different things, but also that I brought amazing things because of that, my experience could have been different. And I think that for a lot of us, it's not a unique experience, unfortunately.
No, it's not. And I mean, that's why we're both wanting to talk about it, so we can bring more awareness so that more people can find out about it. And hopefully we can, even if people listening are not highly sensitive themselves, I mean, the chances are they absolutely will know somebody who's highly sensitive. So if there is somebody that they know, somebody in their family who just seems to take everything a little bit more, well, I was going to say more to heart. It's not about that, but it is a little bit. That's how I might have described it before, actually, that I take everything, I really take everything in, and I really feel it, and I really mull it over, and experience things at a different level. Like noises seem bigger, and colors seem brighter, and light just can be too light, too bright sometimes. Like, in an office with like strip lights over the top, I mean, that is just, an idea of hell, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So, and that's why this is so important for employers to know, and because 20% of their workforce are likely to be highly sensitive, and how much more able to be themselves and bring their unique, true, wonderful gifts to their job would they be able to if they were treated that well at work? I mean, it's just on so many levels, it's just so important.
Completely agree. Yes.
Yeah. Can I just go back to something that you were telling us? When you were telling us about, your debilitating migraines and your seek for help, and I'm so glad that you found your help in the end, and that you're out of that cycle.
Yes, thank
hopefully, you talked about finally finding somebody, a doctor, who could help you. How did that happen? I'm interested how did you whittle them down, or how did you get to somebody that finally could help you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I spent so many times like on the internet. I would just research, which doing that with a migraine, like staring at a computer screen, is I mean, it's like I would have to have a vomit bucket next. Like it was just, it was awful. But anyway, I looked for forums like with people with migraines, like what are they doing? What have they found? And so I was looking that way. But what actually eventually happened was somebody at my wife's work who knew that, I was suffering, because she was constantly having to take me to appointments, and whatnot. So everybody at her office knew. And somebody was like, I saw this doctor for such and such, and I think she should give him a try. And I was at the point where I was like, yeah, I'll try anything, any recommendation. Absolutely. And that was actually, it didn't fix everything, but gave me some relief. And it was like, so that point, because I hadn't had any relief for like 10 months, saw this doctor, had some relief, and then it would come back, and I'd go see him and have some relief. So it was like, then it was cycling, but I would have moments of relief, and then that gave me a little bit of energy, and I just kept doing more research. I ended up finding 3 doctors in total that were helpful. But it was persistence, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And there were times when I would sit in the bathtub in the dark, because warm water was soothing to me, and I was just trying to just find any kind of comfort, because I was in so much pain. And I had some very dark thoughts. It was like, if there is no help here, like, this is not a life. Like, what? I can't live like this. And I just remember screaming out into the universe, inside myself, just be like, please help me. Like, just please help me. And again, I say, thank God for my wife. She was like, I need you to stick around. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And, if she hadn't said that, I don't know what would have happened, because I was trying to convince myself this wasn't worth it,
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful I stuck around. But I know so many people get into that pain,
Yeah, and when conventional medicine consistently fails to find the answer for you, it must be incredibly hard to keep going and keep. I've heard so many stories lately of people who have been told that, like, it's all in their head, or they're making it up, or or there's nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
So actually people then, folks then turn to looking on the internet like going on forums, seeing what other people are doing, and knowing it, there's something in them, something inside is telling them that there is an answer.
Yes.
There is, we will, and
Yes.
that perhaps, your wife's voice was talking to that part of you that
Yes.
would that kept you going.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, boy, I could get on a soapbox about Western medicine. I won't, but I will say this, that my experience was if they couldn't see it on, any of the tests they did, then it effectively doesn't exist for them.
Yeah.
Even though there's so many people who suffer clumps of things,
Yeah.
And so I think they need to do better. Like they need to do better. They just do.
They do need to do better. And,
Yeah.
there are some, I know it's different in the States than it is here, but, we have the same things here, really. If you take a pill, just take a pill
Yeah.
here and this, or, some sticking plaster, either literally or metaphorically, that will get you through, rather than ever getting to the root cause of things. And, going through my therapy and lifting that lid on all my childhood trauma and working through that has given me a completely new lease of life. And like my therapist said to me, because I went because of something that happened to my eye, and she said, I wonder what it is you don't want to see. And yes, that the injections they gave me in my eye probably would have brought my eyesight back the way it did anyway, but that was actually just a sticking plaster, because for whatever reason it happened, and whatever reason my body needed to give me some punch, some massive wake up call, there would have been something else to follow, I'm pretty sure, if I hadn't taken, because there'd been lots of little ones that I'd ignored. So I mean, our bodies are just amazing things, aren't they? If we can tune in and listen, they are leading us somewhere, but we tend not to listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And, in American corporate culture, taking a sick day is not okay.
Yeah.
I mean, taking vacation is barely okay. Like, you're expected to work during vacation. So it's not part of the culture to, hey, listen to your body, do what it needs. Oh, you need to rest? Great, let's rest so that you can, get back. And so, I mean, that's been really a learning process for me. And in fact, you talked about if you hadn't, you know, kind of gone to the therapist and dug into those things, that it's likely maybe your body would have sent you another message too.
Yeah. Yeah.
After I started getting relief from my migraine, then my uncle died, and he's only 10 years older than me, and was probably the closest person I have in my extended family. Like, we didn't have this conversation because I didn't know it to have it, but I think looking back, he was probably also an HSP.
HSP, yeah.
Yeah, like, we just got each other, but so that happened. That's what got me into therapy, thank God. I'm starting to feel better from my migraine. I'm digging into emotional stuff. And then I'm saying I can't go back to where I was, but also maybe that's the only option I have. Like, some of that was going through my head. Then I broke my ankle and I and I was off my feet for a while, and I'm like, okay, but who am I if I can't produce things? Like, because I was just sat in a chair with my leg up, and so then it was like, okay, I've stopped. And now I was really just going in, and I had the therapist to help me do that, because, thank goodness for guides and helpers.
Yes.
got further down the path, and then my appendix burst. And I was just like, okay, I get it. I'm stopping. I am.
Oh my
It was just like
goodness.
this
It
series
was
of
one
things.
thing after another,
It
wasn't
really
it?
was. And I was just like, okay, I promise we're forging ahead in a different way.
Yeah.
And yeah, your
Yeah,
body, it does send you messages. Yeah.
it does, and you can, you can only ignore those messages and keep on going for so long. I mean, some of us can go on for longer than others, but you know, eventually it gets us all, unless, of course, we find a different way to numb, and we find a different way to block it out.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other. That's a whole other I don't really know a huge amount about that, except, I grew up with an alcoholic mother. I'm pretty sure she was
Yeah.
an HSP now. And I'm
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
sure that, and that was her coping mechanism from being really quite young. So, but, my coping mechanism was food. So, I was going to say, so eating too much rather than drinking too much is sort of more acceptable, but actually it's not, because then you get all the society's messages about you're not acceptable because you're fat. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation, really.
Yep.
But you raised a good point there about when this happens and this sort of awakening happens in a way, or okay, I'm listening now. That whole identity piece is massive, because it's like, okay, so who am I now then? And if I'm not
Yes.
doing all this, if I'm not
Yes.
hustling like I've been used to, if I'm not doing all the things that society tells me I'm supposed to do, now what?
Yes. Yes. And what is my value and what is my worth?
Oh, and that's such a massive piece, isn't it? I mean, that is
Yes.
what led me to my breakdown. It really is. And but I mean, that brings us neatly on to really what was going to be my next question about sort of, so where are you now? Because actually, like me, this whole identity piece has been relatively recent.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still working with my therapist. I've worked with
Yeah,
multiple coaches.
yeah,
I've gone through Willow's program, as
yeah,
have you.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so my focus has been to really look at, who am I now? Who am
Yeah,
I now? What is my worth? What value do I bring? And this isn't a commercial for Willow, but I will say, like, that is one of the things I loved about his program, is it's really about looking at the gifts that you bring as a high sensory person,
yeah, me too. I
right?
totally agree. I don't think I'd be where I am now without having done his program, actually. I totally,
Yeah.
so I agree with you.
The combo of that plus my therapist, who was just, she's such a loving presence, and she's, really, like, she's been a safe place to explore, like, well, if I'm not hustling, then who am I,
Yes. Yeah.
and just like worth in my beingness. So, and we worked a lot on growing self-compassion, which is, I just think, the key to everything. So between those two things, like, that has really shored up, um I guess, my new awareness of who I am. I was gonna say my new identity, but I'm like, but it's really just my awareness now
Yes.
of who I am, and that I
Yeah.
do have value that I bring to the world.
Yeah.
And I love now that I get to work with clients and do that same thing. Like, coaching is life-giving to me. Like, when I used to go to work, I was like so drained. It was just a draining thing. And now I can be feeling a little bit tired, go into a coaching session and feel energized at the end of it. And I'm like, okay, that is a clue. Like, talk about body clues. Like, right?
Yes.
That is a clue that I'm doing something that is, my word for that would be in alignment
Yeah.
with, you know, with me, in alignment with what my gifts are and what is good for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I know
that's
it.
where I am. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is just amazing. That, it makes me feel very happy looking at watching the look on your face as you're telling me and us and anybody who's watching on YouTube will see that the joy on your face as you're saying that is really, it's really quite infectious. And it's an amazing place to be, isn't it? Having spent years of hustling and and just feeling a bit, like you say, out of alignment. I mean, I think yes, I mean, I totally get the word alignment. I think I would say lights me up, or actually what I used to say, it makes my heart and soul sing. It's searching for that thing that just really makes you fizz with excitement, and just or not even fizz with excitement. It's just that, this hum of this gentle hum, I mean, of contentment in a way. This is good. This is what we're here for. This is what we're meant to be doing. And that's an amazing place. And like you, we both want to bring that feeling to other people. We want everyone to be able to sort of discover their inner self and what lights them up, what puts them in alignment with their true purpose, whatever phrase you want to use. It's just about that joyous feeling of like life is good.
Yes. Yeah. Can you imagine, Philippa, a world full of people who were doing the things that light them up? Like our world would be a completely different landscape. And that's my big, giant vision, which will likely not take place in my lifetime, but I want to add to that bucket, right? Of helping people. It's like sometimes it's like giving them permission to, find out what's true for them, and then to follow that, find a way to follow that and do the things that light them up, that make their hearts sing,
and it's really about it's about looking in, isn't it? Listening in, and what messages are coming from inside, because we deep down in us there's that little voice that really knows what is good for us. But we're so busy doing all the things that society tells us we should do, because the way to live a good and productive life is to be like super productive and do all the things, and have the house and have the car and be seen to be a success, whatever, and success is, I think success is sort of taken as this objective thing, when it's not. It's so subjective. It's what is success is going to be so much an individual thing. What success is to me is going to be very different to what success is for you, is going to be very different to what success is for everybody listening, because it's about how you feel inside. And we are grown up, we grow up largely getting messages from our parents, our extended family and society about how we should do things, and the things that we should find important, and the things that we should hold dear, rather than being encouraged to work out for ourselves what that is. I've kind of gone on a bit of a rant now, haven't I? Sorry.
I love it. Yes, I love everything you're saying. Yes, like we absolutely, I look back at life and was trained from the beginning to look outside of myself for approval, right? Instead of seeking the voice within to really say, is this right for me? Is this good for me?
Yeah. And you mentioned this earlier, and actually it's one, I've had a bit of a toot around your website, and there's a whole section of in your website which is all about your beliefs, and every single one of your beliefs on there I totally agree with. I'm not going to read them out. I just think they're all marvelous. But one of your beliefs is very much the sort of thing that I say, and that is compassion is key. And you mentioned self-compassion earlier. And I think self-compassion, I know that you say compassion is key, but obviously compassion is for self as well as for others. And when we find ourselves in this, like, oh God, this is the way I've been living, but actually this is not really what, is not what's in alignment for me. Self-compassion really plays a part there. doesn't it? Because,
Oh my God.
we have to be really kind to ourselves about how we have been doing all those things and how we've got to where we are.
Yeah. Yes.
Because without that self-compassion and like, okay, well, we got here because we didn't, we followed everything that we were told. We follow everything that we learned. We didn't know any different. We didn't know any better. Whatever it is,
Yep.
whatever it is, just be incredibly kind to ourselves at that stage, because judgment or frustration about where we are is just going to keep us stuck.
Yes.
It's the compassion that's going to help us move past it and on. Do you agree with that?
100% agree. I 100% agree. And I recognized that my self-judgment voice was so loud and so cruel. Like, I mean, just, beating me up for every little thing. And it was absolutely true. I've heard other people say this. Would you talk to others, loved ones, the way, you talk to yourself? And I was like, I would never. Like, no. I would never. And yeah, we got to where we got because we did our best, because we're in these systems and family systems and society systems and school systems and work systems and the patriarchy overarching, just that telling us like, this is what you're supposed to do to be a good member of this system. You do these things. Like, nowhere was I given the information. What is best is to actually check in with you. That's some stuff I had to discover on my own. Yeah. And so, of course we end up where we end up. And if we look at it through those same lenses of, well, we should know, we should blah, 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 then yeah, you're going to beat yourself up. And it I realized I'm adding to my own harm. Like, I'm harming myself.
Yes.
In the way that I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
And I started actually just really envisioning like little Robbie in there.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was like, I would never speak to any child the way that I talk to myself.
Yeah.
And so that helped me. And I started like really comforting her. I'm just like, it's okay. Like, I'm thinking of, and I really looked at myself as, how would I comfort a child who made a mistake, right? And I put mistake in quotes because, man, I think most things are just, we do it or we learn something. Like, but I was raised like, oh my God, it's a failure and the world is ending, so
it's the worst thing ever. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's so silly. But so I started really looking at comforting little Robbie and saying, how would I respond to a child now? And it's with love and compassion always, right? It's just like, well, you did your best. And guess what? It was great. Like, look what you accomplished. Like, most of the time, it's like our best is pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. And actually look at what you did, look at what you accomplished. Why actually you were on kind of in the wrong place, like out of alignment. Imagine what you could accomplish when you're in alignment. I mean,
right?
That is what gets really exciting.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, just before we move on, not only do we do all the things that we think we should do, should in quotes, that, all those messages that we get, not only do we do all those things and we're not told to, well, what do you think? We're not encouraged, because I think there has to be quite a degree of emotional intelligence to bring that into the whole into our awareness, to bring us into it. So not only does that not happen, we are actually applauded for everything that we do that goes against what is good for us. So that's even more confusing, because we're celebrated for it. And it's like, oh, okay, so I kind of got to carry on doing this. So it's really insidious. So actually breaking out, breaking away, breaking free, or however you want to think about it, actually really takes some courage.
Yeah.
So anybody who's listening to this and thinks, yeah, that's me, but what do I do about it? Please do not, as we said, please give yourself compassion.
Yes.
Please don't start giving yourself, a hard time, because there's all so many messages going on that gets us to that place, that unraveling it takes a while.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say to those people, get with other HSPs,
Yes.
right? Find an HSP coach, find an HSP community, find an HSP therapist, like get with other HSPs, because it helps you to start seeing, oh, I'm not an alien. I heard a client said that to me the other day. She's like, oh, I'm not an alien. It's like, no, you are not.
I know.
You are not.
I know. And just those sort of like moments of, oh, it's not just me. I was running a workshop the other week, and this lady said, I've got this great friend, and he's just a really great guy, and he's really interesting, and I just can't work out why he wants to be friends with me. And there was a gasp across the room, and this other woman said, oh my God, I thought it was just me that felt like that.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a real lovely moment between those two, and probably more in the room who hadn't gasped quite so loud. Because I recognize that. I always used to go, why are these people wanting to be friends with me? So
me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. What is it? What do they want from me? Are they trying to, I don't know, but that goes to my trust issues, and that's a whole other different ballgame. But yeah, just to know that it's not, and that's largely why I started this podcast, really, because I talk about my journey, so that if other people recognize bits in either what I'm talking about or what fabulous guests like you are talking about, anybody who's resonating with any of this knows it's not just them.
Yes.
Because it's a really lonely place sometimes, growing up thinking it's always lonely thinking it's just you.
Yes. Yeah. And looking at looking outside at others' behaviors, and it seems like they're doing great, right? And then inside, I mean, I might put on a facade to seem like I'm doing great too, but inside I'm just dying inside, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but to have true connection with other people like you, to hear their stories and recognize your own in it, it's so powerful.
It is.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of small groups. I think they're amazing.
Yeah. And oh, my ear's fallen out. I knew it would do. I said to you, didn't I? Great. Sorry for anybody who's listening and not watching. One of my earbuds just fell out. Right. So technology. Yeah. And a lot of what we're talking about is about finding the real us, the real us inside. And I mean, I kind of know the answer. I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but finding the real you, or getting towards finding the real you, because I think it's a long journey, but it's a great journey, because there's always another little bit to uncover. And I've got a bit nerdy about it now, and I'm like, oh, great. I mean, I don't always think great, because it's often a bit like messy. And, it's often a bit messy until you go, oh, okay, so that's another bit I've learned now. But that, presumably you finding that truer version of you is what's helping you do the work that you do now.
Oh my gosh, yes. I couldn't be doing the work I'm doing now if I hadn't, tapped into the version of me that I have now. And I totally relate to what you're saying. I'm constantly seeking. So I'm going to, this is not, well, I've found myself and done and dusted, it's a continuous, like, going into the next layer and uncovering, and it's a little bit like an archaeologist, it I would overarchingly say it is a fun process for me. And I also have those moments where I'm like, you know, I'm not going to curse on your podcast, but definitely what the, and have those moments and then go, oh, okay, this is it's another uncovering. It's another healing of this wound over here. It's another recognition. It's sometimes it feels like I'm bringing all these pieces of me back together, and it's like we're reunifying, because there are pieces that have been left behind, because I'm like, well, I can't hear you and I can't deal with you, and now it's like, oh, welcome back to the fold. It's a process.
It is. And I talk about that a lot with my clients, actually, about different parts and where are they and how can we bring them back, because that helps make us whole.
Yes, beautifully said.
And I still find little parts that are still out there, or sometimes a big part that's still not quite where I'd like it to be. But so what brings you joy, Robbie?
Oh man. Self-discovery, like we talked about, that brings me joy, and helping others do that process brings me so much joy. I don't even have the words for it. I had a client this week, and she had one of those moments where you physically see something shift for her in the moment, because sometimes it happens kind of when we're not together anymore. Like, we'll do some rich work, and then clients go and sit with things, and then they come back and go, oh, and this and this and this. And this one was absolutely in the moment. I saw like the aha, and it was just, it blew her mind what she discovered about herself. And then it was like, wait, now I have to go look at these things, because this is different from what I always thought about myself. And I love those moments. Like, I mean, I was inside, it's like this happy dance, like, yes, you're finding you. This is amazing. That brings me so much joy.
I love the idea. Happy dance.
Right? Yeah, I was. And then big nature, that's what I call it. Big nature brings me joy. So I'm fortunate here. We've got old growth forests, so giant trees, and we've got the sounds. We've got big salt water, and we have big mountains. So big nature brings me joy.
Oh, amazing.
And then my wife brings me joy, and we have a dog and 2 cats, so our fur babies, they bring me joy.
Nice.
They're animals I find to be great teachers. They're not concerned with anything other than what their needs are, right? They're like, I'm tired, gonna take a nap. Oh, I feel like playing, let's do more play, right? I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat. Like, they're loving beings. They're just great.
Yeah, you're right. And so we've just got a dog. We haven't got cats. I did grow up with cats and dogs, but I look at my dog sometimes. I think, be more dog. Just be more
dog
in the moment, and know what you want. I mean, he irritates the, out of me, because now I work at home. He's like, oh, great, we're going to play all day, and I'm like,
all the time.
We're absolutely not going to play all day, all the time. And I have to shut the door when I'm on Zoom, because he'll be in, out, he'll have a ball that rattles or something, he'll be in and out, and it's like, no, so he has to get shut out now. But he knows what he wants, he knows what he needs, and he asks for it, and I do often look at it can be really irritating, but he knows to ask for it. And like me, you really like water, don't you?
Oh my gosh, yes, love it.
I've rediscovered my joy of water in the last 18 months or so, and so at the minute, so we're recording this in the middle of October, and I'm doing a dip a day for the whole challenge for the whole of October. So and the water's getting cold now. So
yes, woo!
Yeah, so either we go and I go with a friend of mine and we swim in a local marine lake, or on the days that we can't do that, I've got a little tub in my back garden now. So I go and dip in there. And it's really interesting because that's a whole different, like, because I get in the tub, which is really quite, I can just about get my shoulders down and keep my knees underneath. It's not massive, but I will be covered in the water, but I can't move. And that's a whole different experience to being in the lake.
Yes.
I mean, I prefer the lake. I like being in the water, covered in the water, but being free to
Yes.
move. But yeah, I do. I've really rediscovered that, and so now I'm setting my challenge of keeping going all through the winter. So we'll
Wow.
see.
Good for you.
Well, I say that we'll see how cold I can go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Woo.
just finding those, and I just find it's really good for my nervous system.
Uh-huh.
It's really yeah, there's just something. Just we were there this morning, and I thought it was going to be really windy and probably raining, and actually the wind dropped. It didn't rain, and the sun came out, and there was. It's just like those magic that it was just magical this morning. You
Yes.
just get days like that sometimes,
Yes.
and being immersed in the water and stuff. Yeah, yeah, it was great.
I love that. And I totally resonate with what you're saying about water being great for the nervous system. I find that to be absolutely true, and big nature for me too.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
yeah, it's just it helps calm me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you're a reader as well, because I was
Oh
nosy, and
yeah.
yeah, all the things about you on your website that you're a cat
Yeah.
person. It doesn't say you've got a dog on there. It says you're a cat person.
Oh, it does. It mentions Maggie, them our dog.
Oh,
But
does
yeah.
it? I obviously
So
not on the bit I saw.
I consider myself a cat person, but I
Yes.
happen to be in love with our dog. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, cat or dog. I mean, I'm both, but I think I'm more of a dog than a cat person, I
Hmm.
think. But yeah, I'm allergic to cats, so actually we can't have
Oh, yeah, yeah, that
cats.
makes it hard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you're a big reader
Love
and
reading.
you love trees and water.
I'm yeah, I was just gonna say I read multiple books at the time. Like I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those things bring you joy, all those things help you um calm your system,
Yeah.
all those things, you know, are what light you up as well as doing
Absolutely.
all this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
otherwise they wouldn't be on there, would they? If
That's
you
right.
talk about yourself. Yeah. And you've got a new program that you're and I love it because it's called From Perfectionism to Peace.
Yeah.
I love that. I like the
Mm.
alliteration. I like, who doesn't like a bit of alliteration? But,
Right.
I don't think we haven't got too much time to go. Well, maybe you can come back and we'll talk about perfectionism on another episode.
Love
But
to.
from perfectionism to peace
Yeah.
is a really, for me, that's a really vivid visual, like, perfectionism, doing all the things to peace
Yes.
is like those words you're great with words, and you've chosen
Oh,
those words, or peace being where you're going from perfection to peace is genius, really, because
thank you.
I really get that.
Hmm.
So are you a recovering perfectionist?
Oh my gosh, yes. Recovering perfectionist and people pleaser. Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
And what you just did with your hands with perfectionism, just like
yeah,
that was absolutely my experience of it as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And through all the work that I've done, um, I absolutely it's not like perfectionism totally goes away, but it feels like the stranglehold does go away. Like things,
yeah,
thoughts will still pop up, but now I have so many tools and resources, and I'm so much more grounded and know myself and have so much self-compassion now that,
yes,
that it doesn't get a hold of me the way that it used to. So yeah, I'm excited about this program as I want to give people the tools to
yeah,
not be in the grip of that, stranglehold, to have that peace. So that they can, you know, do the things they want to do. Because perfectionism for me, it kept me away from people, you
mm,
know, because I was afraid they'd see what a mess I was, and it kept me from putting things into the world I wanted to do because they weren't good enough yet. I wasn't good enough and my stuff wasn't good enough. That was basically the core of the whole thing,
Yeah.
And you and I have chatted a bit about perfectionism. And so I think you have some similar thoughts around it, but
Oh gosh.
yeah, I just,
absolutely.
I just want to give people these tools. I think it's freeing. I want people to be free to be able to get their stuff into the world because the world needs it. Yeah.
It absolutely does. And I think, like you said earlier, you've brought us nicely back to something you said earlier, that actually if more of us were bringing our true selves, our stuff to the world, we were doing things that lit us up, then
Yes.
actually, how much kinder a world would we have?
Yes.
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 And I talk about that all the time. I also talk about if we were kinder to ourselves, then we could be kinder to others, and that would bring
That's
more
right.
kindness into the world. So, kind to ourselves, self-compassion, just trying to see the true us and letting the true us come out. All of those things are just really so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, thank you so much for giving me your time and coming talking about this today. I have loved this talk, and I hope you will come back sometime soon and talk
Oh my
again.
gosh. Philippa, it's been a true honor and a joy. Thank you so much. I always love speaking to you, and it was just so fun to be on your podcast. Thank you. I'd love to come back anytime.
Great. Thank you so much.
And thank you. I want to say thank you for who you are in the world and what you're bringing to it, because you really do make a difference. And yeah, I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeting of Minds podcast. You can find this podcast in all the usual places. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe. And if you have a moment, I'd be really grateful if you could rate and review, as it helps other people find us and helps me spread the messages of empowerment and positivity that I'm really passionate about. If you want to find out more about me, you can visit my website, www.safeandsupported.co.uk. Until next time, bye.